George Hughes in it over at the Bach Dancing Dynamite Society, talking to Pepper Adams, who's just concluded a dynamite set of 3 long and beautiful sets, standards and bebop tunes. And welcome again to Half Moon Bay. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much, George. It's great to be here.
What is on the horizon in the next week or so that you're going to be in the Bay Area?
I wish you hadn't asked me that, because I don't remember the name of a couple things I'm doing.
It'll come to you.
No, it won't. I know that on Tuesday I am doing a clinic at a college in the Napa Valley area, and it's an early in the day sort of thing, so I'll be through by early afternoon, and the intention is to hang out in the Napa Valley and go to a winery.
Absolutely. Check out the wineries we have up there, the Napa, Sonoma, Mendocino, all of that stuff. So you're going to be here for, what, a couple of weeks at the most, and you have an engagement coming up at the Russian River Jazz Festival also, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's next Saturday, yeah. And Saturday night as well at the Great American Music Hall.
Are you going to be playing with Dave Frischberg, or is that going to be 2 separate sets? How's that going to be set up, pianist Dave Frischberg?
I believe it'll be 2 separate sets. I'll be playing with the same group I was playing with here, John Marabuto and Bob Mays and Ronald Marabuto.
So, and what about at the Russian River? That's going to be with Johnny Cappola's big band, isn't that right?
That's what I've been led to understand, yeah.
So you're going up there Friday to rehearse with that, and then that's going to be Saturday afternoon for that.
Yeah, correct. There again, that's my understanding.
Well,
after it has happened, we can have another interview, and I'll tell you what actually happened.
And then after the Russian River, are you heading back to New York, or what is the situation there?
The following Tuesday, which should be, I think, the 27th, is another college clinic. Perhaps a performance. It might just be a clinic. I'm not really clear on that either.
Are you doing a lot of those across the country, or on the East Coast in New York, or is this your first real opportunity to do that now?
Well, I've done a number of them, particularly when I was with Thad and Mel's band. They would get involved in doing clinics, and I have done some things of that nature. They frequently are unrewarding for participant and for clinician.
Why is that, though?
Well, clinic is such an ill-defined term that it seems to mean whatever the resident music instructor thinks it means. And this can vary widely, and it can come down to fiascos, as we frequently had when I was with Thad and Mel, of 18 musicians on the bandstand who are tired. They just got off a bus from a 12-hour trip, and they have to go to this dumb clinic, and there are kids out there asking questions like, what kind of car do you drive? And other meaningful, probing musical points.
So you're going to be happy to progress right over to the winery after the clinics over there and the performance.
Well, the one coming up on Tuesday, and what is the name of the college? Solano. I spoke on the phone to the music director there, and it will consist of an hour of performance of me playing with the school orchestra, which will be interesting.
They have a jazz band. Is that the unit?
I certainly hope so. And the clinic then will be a discussion of improvisation, and they will have available for me a rhythm section so I can talk about things and then demonstrate them. So that sounds like it's going to be a clinic where clinician will get something out of it, and very possibly the students might as well.
That's normally the best way to hold a clinic, is just to let the person doing it do his own thing, isn't it?
I would certainly think so.
I guess the biggest news on the horizon for you is that after, some 10-plus years, how long has it been with Thad Jones and Mel Lewis band that you're moving on now?
I think it's 12 and a half, if I haven't lost count.
And endless beautiful albums for Blue Note and Solid State, and you're now going to go out on your own and leave the band. What sort of things prompted that? Where are you trying to go in music right now, having, you've done just about everything there is to do in a big band setting. Is that primarily the reason? I don't want to answer the question for you, but what prompted your leaving, one of the greatest jazz bands in the United States?
Well, it is the greatest jazz band in the world. There's no question of that. And I've certainly enjoyed all the time I spent with them. The personal relationships and the musical setting was all superb. One of the points is that I was married about a year and a half ago and inherited a child in the process. And so my primary reason for leaving the band is so that I can order my own life, make my own mistakes booking rather than count on Mel Lewis to make my mistakes for me, which as he's been doing for 12 and a half years.
Well, originally the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Band just started out as a rehearsal band meeting at the Village Vanguard on Monday nights, right? But it soon thereafter, with various recording dates, began to take off, and they began to travel more and more. Is that the way the pattern unfolded, making life more difficult for the individual members?
Yeah, basically that's the general idea. And for a number of years, the band would go on an extended tour once a year on the average, maybe twice. But in the last 3 or 4 years, they have worked much less in the States and much more in Europe or in Japan, which I love to do. I really very much enjoy being overseas. But,
what's your impression of the Japanese audience in terms of their appreciation for jazz as opposed to the Europeans right now?
Well, that's
Are they more avid about it?
That's very difficult to answer when especially with Thad and Mel's band, with audiences are avid everywhere. So, how do you differentiate? The amount of foaming at the mouth, or what?
Fair enough. So you've been gone for about 2 weeks from the band, and are now out here on the West Coast. It's back to New York, and what is next for you?
I'll be in France from October 8th until November 6th, working with the George Arvanites Trio, with 1 week in Paris.
They're in Paris, right? Jackie Sampson and those people?
Exactly. Yeah, you know those folks. They live in Paris. We'll do 1 week at River Bop and 3 weeks of concerts. And I don't have the full itinerary, so I don't know exactly how tightly it's booked. But from what I gather, it'll be comfortable. You'll have enough time off to enjoy being in France.
You're going to take the family along, or is that possible?
It's not possible in the wintertime, no, because my boy is 7 and he's in school, and my wife will have to stay home. In the summertime, we can travel, so I'm going to try to set up for this coming summer to spend a couple of months in Europe.
You're one of the major exponents of the baritone saxophone in this country, in my opinion. How did you get started on baritone? Did you start on another instrument, or who would you say your influences were, and what led you to take up baritone as opposed to much more common alto or tenor, perhaps?
Well, I had played clarinet and soprano and tenor when I was high school or later grade school and early high school. And it's ridiculous to play baritone when the instrument's taller than you are. It's a tough instrument, so you're overmatched physically anyway. I was about 16 when I had an opportunity to buy a baritone.
You've had it ever since?
This is my second one. I had the first one for about 5 months, and then I got the one that I'm playing now. That's been around a while. One of the things that prompted me to take up the baritone is I was dissatisfied with the way I was hearing it played and thought they were other approaches. Not necessarily more viable, but at least, to quote a vaudeville act my mother told me about, that their tagline was, "We may not be good, but by God, we're different."
Do you come from a musical family or an entertainment family, or are you the major one in that direction in your family?
You couldn't call it a musical family. I had an uncle who played clarinet with the Chicago Symphony, but he died very young, and I never got to meet him. Um, I come from a family of Irish intellectual drunks.
We're very, very happy in New York right now.
No, I hope they're very happy somewhere, but they died off years ago.
Mr. Chairman, the other question I have is on LAFCO, Irish 2314.
What are you doing?
After the Europe,
All be up to our navel in Irish drunks.
after Europe, you're going to get a chance to come back and relax for a while, or what I'm trying to get into is, since you've left Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, you're going to be performing with various groups around the country. What's your desire, to stay right in New York and perform there with various personnel, or form your own band, or what are you thinking of along that line?
Well, I'm trying to think in a realistic manner, whatever that might be. Part of it, I would like to be able to spend more time in New York with my family and control when I travel. For example, two weeks coming here, fine, and I'm home for 10 days, and I'm a month in France, and then I do have plans, like I have engagements playing around the New York area that will carry me through into the end of the year. So that will give me 2 months at home, and then possibly till the early part of the year, I'm hopeful of a month in Vienna and Munich and some of the lower Bavarian ski resort areas. Something in discussion now. And then be home again. Now, if I was still with Thad and Mel's band, I would be called upon to travel whenever they got something that necessitated my traveling. And then trying to book my own thing to mesh in and around that. And sometimes this might turn out that I'd be away from home for 2 months to 3 months at a time, which is something I just do not want to do during the school year.
What about the economic picture, the economic side of things? Do you expect that to improve by the move that you're taking to leave the band and go out on your own?
Well, it's certainly in this respect that when I travel as a single, or if it's necessary for me to travel with a rhythm section still, I would be getting paid at a rate considerably higher than that of Thad and Mel's band, which means that I can spend much less time on the road and still turn over the same amount of payroll. Since, with an 18-piece orchestra, they're limited in their payroll resources.
What's your opinion of the economic situation that jazz musicians seem to be in the country, in 20 words or less?
Well, the worst of it is and always has been the imbalance. There are 15 people doing just great. And there are 300 or 400 equally deserving people just barely hanging on. It's not that it's a bad situation for everybody. There are some people that are very fortunate and others who are not.
For someone such as yourself who's chosen not to go in the electronic area or to venture out into avant-garde directions and stay with bop directions and ballads and music that's developed traditionally over the last 30 years, I'm sure that has some kind of impact, which may only be affected by the fact that you really are as popular as you are, or at least I hope you are.
Gee, I have very little way of knowing about that. I know I'm popular in Half Moon Bay.
You going to come back next year?
I hope so. It's been encouraging so far. I've been in California for 4 days. I've played 3 engagements, and I think each one is one that I can return to. Here I have played before. The other 2 were places that were entirely new to me. So if they and I survive, there's a good chance we might be able to arrange something of the same nature next year. I certainly hope so.
I do too. Just in a final couple of questions, which I wanted to get your opinions of some of the directions that music seems to be taking, especially in New York with the loft jazz that's happening there, some of the younger players that are working in the lofts, and some of the older players that are helping keep the lofts going, such as Sam Rivers and people that are going off in that direction. and also to try to get your opinion of the electronic areas and some of the people that are popularizing the fusion and the jazz rock things that are happening, and how that is all, whether or not you have, any deep feelings about that one way or another. Step out on a limb here, Pepper.
Well, that's two areas in which I am not knowledgeable at all. Loft jazz is nothing new at all. It's a situation from what living in New York is. You can get a deserted factory and play at night. I lived for a couple of years in a place where I could come home at 5 o'clock in the morning after a job and practice for 2 hours, which was great, and have jam sessions frequently. More frequently in the summer than the winter because the coal stove didn't work all that good. But now apparently what is called loft jazz is becoming a marketable item. I've seen European festivals listing loft jazz as if it's something. Jazz has been played in lofts in New York at least in the 22 years that I have known New York well, and probably for at least 20 years prior to that, just as a venue, as a place to play.
What I'm trying to get at is what are your feelings towards players such as Anthony Braxton and Sam Rivers and some of these people who are stepping, to use the term loosely, outside of the way jazz music has been played a great deal, and in the vein in which you are playing and have played for so many years, with not only with Thad and Mel, but with Donald Byrd and so many other groups that you've been involved in.
I frankly have never heard Anthony Braxton play. I've met him, but I'm really not familiar with him. Avant-garde is a constant term for a constantly changing device. In the 1890s, Gustav Klimt was an avant-garde painter. I'm sure he's not considered that now. He's a Jugendstil or something. And jazz has always had its so-called avant-garde, some of which is proved to be viable, some of which is not. When's the last time you heard Benny Castano, for example? Because he got great press and great notoriety in his time, but what he was doing is not valuable. Hardly anything would survive. Lee Konitz certainly doesn't play in his style anymore.
Wait, I've not completed my rhetoric.
Sound when I haven't really heard them.
I just wondered what your feelings were towards it, if you have had a chance to hear it, basically, is where I was coming from with that.
Well, a lot of it that I have heard is people playing what they call free, which means playing a G7 chord for 35 minutes. And it's no fun for the player if he has capabilities beyond that. And it's no fun for the listener if they have capabilities beyond that.
We have fun listening to your music. I guess we're running out of tape or running out of time, but I want to thank you for your impressions, and I hope that you'll be back next year here, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week up at the Russian River. Thanks, Pepper Adams, for letting us do this, and for 3 beautiful sets of great music.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pepper Adams.